Hi, welcome to Real Estate Math version 2. We did part 1 and now we're doing part 2. And I want to start this. I've been doing these classes since 1980, so it was a long time ago. But she did call and she says, "Rick, you lied to me." And I said, "No, ma'am, I never lied to you." "Yeah, no, you lied to me. You said every test only had about 8 or 9 math problems on it max, and every question on the exam, every single question was a math question." And I said, "What?" And that can't possibly be correct. I mean, there's a computer program that chooses the test, and it would never choose all math. Says, "No, everything, every question was math." I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" She says, "Well, every question began with a number, 1, 2, 3, 4." The worst case of math phobia I've ever seen, ever. So hopefully you're not that bad, okay? But what I'm saying is we want you to pass every math question because those are ones that have an absolute definitive answer to it. So we're going to go through some questions in just a moment. But if you're terrified of math, if it's something that you just can't seem to get a handle on, I understand. And work some math problems. And we have some math problems. I think that if you work our math problems here at the Institute of Real Estate Education, you might be a little bit surprised of the striking similarity they bear to the ones you might be seeing. I mean, at least we know what the categories are and we can kind of work with those on it. And now when you get into business, I mean, there'll be people that'll help you with the math. There's a title company, there's a mortgage broker. They're going to do the heavy lifting on the math. But once you're in the business, I really want you to learn the real estate math. I want you to learn how to do closings. And when I started in Colorado, I was in my mid-20s. It was about 45 years ago. And back in Colorado, at the time I started, all brokers and agents were responsible for doing their own closings. That only lasted for like 4 or 5 months. I mean, that previously up to that time, you'd actually have to figure all the closing, all the settlement sheets out. But after I was in the business for a little bit, that's when we kind of changed in the industry, and title companies started taking on the role of the responsibility of getting those sheets together. Now, understand on the exam in the Utah portion that as your broker is still responsible for the accuracy of those settlement statements. But unless they have not been given all the information, for example, the house was rented and there's a renter in there and the renter is staying. No one ever told the title company that there was a renter in there. Therefore, there was no rent proration, and therefore there was no damage deposit transfer to the new owner. It's not a math mistake. It's a foolish mistake by a real estate agent that didn't tell the title company everything they needed to know about this particular transaction. But title companies pretty much handle heavy lifting, and your broker will check that over. Because the broker is responsible for the accuracy of those settlement statements. However, most of the time, to tell you the truth, the brokers aren't checking that math until after it's already closed and they have the settlement sheets. Rarely do they check them in advance. I want you to check them in advance. I want you to understand. I don't want you just to go to the closing and sit there eating a chocolate chip cookie, and afraid to be left in the settlement room, the closing room, with your clients and the settlement sheets, and the escrow officer says, "Oh, well, hey, I think the cookies are about ready to come out of the oven. Here, I'll run and get some." And they get up and they leave. And you get really nervous because you're afraid your clients are going to ask you a question about the settlement sheets. Well, I don't want you to go through that. I want you to understand the settlement sheets. However, until you get to that point, you could always just leave with the escrow agent, say, "Oh, here, let me help you," and walk out with them so they can't ask you any questions. But I don't want you to do that. All right, enough levity. Let's jump into some math, okay? All right, let's go. And tonight, of course, our technical genius with us, it's Our school owner with the mostest, Mr. Dan Naylor, is with us.
Hello.
And he'll be doing heavy lifting on the technical stuff. All right, so our first question is, an investor purchases a fourplex for $550,000, and they want to sell it as soon as they realize a 20% gain. At what price do they hope to sell the property? At what price do they hope to sell the property? Okay, and if you look at the answers, there's a $570,000 answer, a $650,000, a $660,000, and a $720,000. So let's look at this question and figure out how we're going to do this. Well, we have a formula, and the formula is the new value, the old value, and then the gain or loss percentage. And those formulas can be changed around. Now, if you're looking at this one, the information they gave us said they paid $550,000. Now, if they want to get a gain on this, right, we need to consider this as the value that they went in on. So that would be 550. And where on this little formula do you think we're going to put that? Well, we're going to put it in the old value, right? Yeah, because that's what they paid for it. Okay, and the next thing is there's a 20% gain. So what was the 550 at the time they bought it? Well, that was everything they paid for it. So that's got to be 100%. See, if someone wants to receive a gain, they want to get their 550 back plus an additional 20%. So at the 550 represented 100%, that plus the gain they want to get, 20%, would now be the amount of gain, which would be, they want 120% of what they paid for it. Okay. So the percentage gain, old value, they want 0.2 or 20%. Now, notice on the 20% on your screen, there's a decimal sign there, a percentage sign, not a decimal sign, a percentage sign. And there's two little zeros in that, right? So that means you got to roll that decimal point 1, 2 spaces, okay? Because there's two zeros there, in a percentage sign. So we're going to multiply our 2% times 550 or 20%, and that will give us $110,000. Now, is that everything, or is that just the gain? Well, since we're multiplying only by the 20% in here, or that's what we were multiplying our 550 by, that's not everything. That's just the gain. So everything is what they paid for it, which was 550 plus the 110,000, and that would mean that our correct answer is C, which is $660,000. Now, there's several things you can do on this. I want you to just kind of think it through. You could take all the answers and work them backwards until you find that it seems to match up, but that's going to take too much time. This is a timed exam. What some people do, I don't do this. When I take the exam, I take each question as it comes to me and work it. And if there's one you had a little question about, you can mark it for review. So at the end of the test, it'll just bring that back to you. When you get there, they'll allow you time to mess around with the software, and it doesn't count against you. The clock doesn't start on your time until you hit the button, start the test, start the timer. Okay. So you could play with the software, go forward, go backward, mark something for review, and learn how the actual software program works. It's really quite simple, but I don't want you spending a ton of time. So what I was saying is, some people mark all the math and they don't do it. They just mark it for review, and then it comes up at the end of the test, and they can enjoy all those math problems all together at once. Or you could take them and just do them as you come through, to take each question as it appears, whatever works for you. But you can do this. You can do this. Okay. And even though each question begins with a number, not all questions are bad. It's very beautiful. Okay, so our first question, we had to add what we paid plus what the profit we wanted. So as soon as the market goes up and this property would sell for around 660 or so, or maybe they're going to improve it. Maybe they're going to paint it. Maybe they're going to add a bath and a bedroom downstairs, to try to force equity into it, which certainly would be a wise thing to do. And that was our first question. The answer was 660. Okay. All right, let's go to the next question, please. Here we have a homeowner who wants to move to a new city, and they know that they will need a down payment of $80,000 to purchase the house they want. They've already been there, they checked out a few homes, and they know the area they want to go into. And really, when I started in the business and when Dan started in the business many years ago, one of the things we did was we really helped them find a house, because we had access to the MLS, they didn't have it. But with the advent of the internet and whatnot, many people have already searched the area, even if they haven't been to the city yet, and found the areas where they want to live. Maybe they had friends that live there or someone else that can give them some input, or maybe even you can give them some input to the areas that might work best for them. Yeah. And so they've already narrowed it down to 3 or 4 or 5 houses many times. Used to be when we started in the business years ago, we would help them find those first 4 or 5 houses. But now more often than not, they'll say, well, here's 5 homes I want to look at to start. Makes our job a little easier. Gets saved a little gas. All right, so they want to move to this new city. They know they're going to need 80 grand. They currently owe $215,000 on their existing home, wherever that is. And that's their payoff on their current mortgage. And you want to help them sell their house, and you want a 5% commission. So what will the sales price of the home need to be for the owner to receive enough for their down payment? Okay, and we have several different answers here. So let's work this problem. Okay. So we know that they want to have how much money for their down payment? What are they going to need? $80,000, right? That was in the first sentence up here in this problem. So we know we've got to get that much net to them. All right. And we know that their loan payoff is about how much money. It's right here in the problem. I mean, this isn't doing math. This is just finding the terms you need and the figures you need to do the problem. Yeah, it's 215,000. So if we take the 80,000 they need for their down payment, right? And we take $215,000, which is the payoff on their old home. Okay, that's going to equal $295,000. And then you ask yourself, well, wait a minute, is that everything? No, don't you want to get paid for helping them sell their house? Yeah, and you're going to charge 5% commission. So if you add up the 80 and the 215, that equals 295. Okay. Right, that's 295. But they got to sell it for a little bit more than that because you want your 5%. So commission. So whatever it is we're going to sell it for, you want 5%. So if you take 5% away for whatever it's going to sell for, which is 100%, that leaves 95%. 100% was everything it's going to sell for, minus 5%, that's your commission, 95%. Now, this is still a rough estimate. Now, this is just a test question, okay? In the real world, in addition to your commission, there's going to be some closing costs. And when you're first starting out into business, you're not going to be able to figure those out. So you need to align yourself with a great title company. A lot of them have little math templates that they can give you, but a lot of them will just figure this out for you. Look, they need 80 grand for their new down payment on the house when they move to Atlanta, Georgia, and they owe 215 on their house here in Salt Lake City. And I want a 5% commission. So so add in some closing costs and tell me what I need to list the house for. And they'll have a rule of thumb. Closing costs normally run, an additional 2, maybe 3%. It depends on if they're going to buy down the mortgage or something for a buyer. But those are factors that your title company will help you with. So the 295 really is going to be, in this example, which was just very basic, 95%. So what do you think we need to do next, friends? We need to divide the 295 by the reciprocal, by the number it represents of the whole, which is 95%. So we take the 295, we divide that by, remember the 95% is going to be changed. We're going to roll that decimal point over 1, 2, because of the decimal, has the 2 zeros in it, 1, 2. So that's 0.95, 0.95. I mean, if you had a dollar, what's 95 cents of that? It's going to be 95% of that dollar, okay? So you divide the 295 by 0.95, and that gives us our projected sales price of 310,529, no, 27. So I'd probably list it for 315, give you a little negotiating room, okay? Or if that's too high, depending on what comps are in the area, you could adjust it down. But if you're going to sell it for less than 310, and you're going to get your 5%, that'll get their 80,000. Now, they're not going to be happy campers if you sell this house and they only come up with $75,000, because if they need 80 to get into their new house, they need 80 to get into their new house. So kind of round it up and do the best you can, and hopefully that they can get 310, 315, 315 would be a great place to start. Even if you got 311, they're probably going to be fine. Okay. Now, when you're presenting offers, you can also use that same title company to help you figure out what their net proceeds will be before you present the offer, so that you don't look like a dummy and say, well, how much do we get to keep? And you say, well, according to my figures, and I've had this check with the title company, you're going to get about $82,000. Oh, good. We need about 80, to make it work. Okay. And that was actually answer D on your test questions, if you printed those out before. D is in David. So a couple of problems on percentages. If there's a percentage loss, then you take that away. If there's a percentage gain, you'd add it to, and we have more math problems you can work. And Dan, go ahead and put up my phone number for anyone that might want to jot it down. If you want to work some math problems together, or you're having a problem with or questions about math or any of the topics, you're welcome to call me on my secret cell phone number, which Dan publishes to the world here in a moment. Okay, and that is 801-556-8000. 801-556-8000. Operators are standing by. Okay. All righty. People say, how'd you get such a good phone number, friends? All right, let's go to the next question, please, Dan. We're going to change topics a little bit. We're going to get into like loan questions now, where there is a principal, tax, and insurance, a PITI payment, and that kind of thing. So our next question is, if I has a new $40,000 loan on her home, or 40-year loan on her home. Wow, 40-year loan. Yeah, okay, I'm never going to pay that sucker off. With the total amount of $480,000 with a 4% interest rate. All right, so how much is our loan amount? $480,000. What is our interest rate? 4%. Okay, and the taxes are $2,100, and they're currently paying $1,500 in insurance, fire insurance, casually. What will their balance be after the first payment? Now, when you get into business, you're going to need like an amortizing calculator, like this one. Okay, this is an HP 12C. It's what a lot of us people, old salts in the industry use, and this is the preferred instrument. But you can get programs that can work on your iPad. You can also get programs that you can put on your phone if you wanted to. But I like having a separate calculator. But what our answer to this question will be is, what is the balance after the first payment? You'll say, well, wait a minute. I thought you said we wouldn't have to do any amortization on the test. You don't. I mean, this is just the first payment, okay? Now, do we know what the payment amount is? Do we? Yeah, they told us. What was the payment amount, guys? First payment of $2,500. Okay. Now, inside that payment, there's going to be the 4% interest on the loan, which is going to be most of it. And there's going to be, this is a PITI payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Anyway, so they give us the taxes for $2,100, but you don't pay all the taxes in one payment. You pay it over the course of a whole year. So in order to get a monthly amount of the $2,100 in payment, a monthly amount in the $2,100 in, we divide that by 12 because there's 12 months in a year, right? Okay, so that means we're going to pay what in monthly taxes? Figure it out for me. Okay, well, if you've got taxes under 2,100, you divide by 12, it's $175. So out of that $2,500 payment, $175 of it is tax, right? And you math savants, you've already answered the question, but those of you struggling with math, we need to do the next part of this, which is the insurance, PITI. So we've got some insurance. And they gave us that amount in the question, 1,500 divided by 12 again, it's 125. So there's going to be $300 of that $2,500 payment, which is the PITI, okay? But there's going to be some more. What we're really trying to solve for is what will the principal amount be after the first payment. All right. So we've got most of the information we need, but not all the information. Okay. So what we're looking at here is we need now to figure out how much interest, how much of that $2,500 payment was interest. So what was our loan amount, my friends? Gave it to you in the question. It was $480,000. And what was the interest rate? 4%. So if the principal amount, you see what happens on the next payment, we will deduct the interest amount from the current loan of 480. But we can work this one because they didn't ask us what would the principal amount be after the third payment. Well, you have to do a lot of math to get to there. It's just the first payment. So the loan balance was 480 times 4. That's $19,200 in annual interest. But what's our next step now? We're making a monthly payment, right? Not an annual payment. So we take the $19,200 and divide that by what, gang? We're going to divide that by 12 again, right? So now we have everything we need to do to answer this question, okay? We see that our monthly interest out of that $2,500, remember I said most of it would be interest, $1,600 is interest. Oh my gosh, okay. All right, so $1,600 was interest, and then $300 for the other two, the taxes and insurance. So that's $1,900 to pay the interest and to pay everything else, right? So we take all those away, and that gives us our principal payment. That the rest of it would go against the loan, be $600. Are you with me? PITI loan. We had to figure out what the total payment was, $2,500. We had to take the taxes off, the insurance payment. I mean, these are going into escrows to pay this year's taxes and next year's insurance. And then we had to take a little off for the interest payment on the loan. So that left a $600 principal reduction. Our loan started off at $480,000 minus the first payment principal reduction of $600. So our new loan balance is, drum roll, $479,400. Okay. You made a $2,500 payment and only reduced your loan by $600. Well, okay, if you want to pay your loan off quicker, First of all, you don't get a 40-year loan. You get a 15-year loan, okay? But what if you can't afford that? Well, then you get the 30-year loan, and then you can if you could pay a little extra in, like even like $600, you would double your principal reduction. And that might be something good to do. Okay, someone's calling me, but it's not one of you guys, so we're not going to answer it. Okay, let me quiet that down. Okay, all right, there you go. Now, math problems aren't worth any more than any other problem. You know, most of the problems are definitional things. Do you understand this? Understand that? So you got to really know your terms. I have a Quizlet program that I'd be willing to give you. Anyone that calls me and asks for it, I'd be happy to send it to you. Quizlet is a program that's very popular in some junior colleges and high schools, and you know, normal universities have it as well. But it's a program that prepares you for multiple choice exams, and I'd be willing to share that with you. I put a lot of the questions that I know that are going to be similar to what you're going to see into that program. There's no charge for it, and I'd be happy to send it to you. And you can learn the vocabulary that way. We have a lot of different tools Dan has at the school that can also help you with the vocabulary. You know, we've got glossaries, and we've got a lot of practice questions that can be very, very helpful to you. And I would strongly recommend you take advantage of those. Okay, so we have another question, and that is that a homeowner has a monthly payment of $1,500, and their next payment includes $1,100 in interest on a 5% loan. So what is their total loan balance? Oh, same thing, but with a little different twist. Okay, so what we're going to have to do now to answer this one is we're going to have to do some thinking here. Alrighty, so we've got their next payment includes $1,100 in interest, right? So in order to determine what the loan balance was, we need to figure out your loan balance, which is a 5% loan, is based on an annual amount of interest, and that changes every single month. But because the principal balance goes down it's called amortization. And that's why you need, you know, one of these little fancy calculators, because it has what's called the Elwood tables in it, which allows you to figure this stuff out with just a couple of button pushes. But we're going to do it longhand, because even though you can take a calculator to the test, they won't let you bring in your amortizing calculator. And you don't need it anyway. You just need a little calculator that can do addition, subtraction, excuse me, multiplication. I'm not allergic to exams. I promise you, I'm not allergic to math either. Just a little bit of hay fever. Wait a minute, can't be hay fever. It's the middle of winter. It's cold outside. Well, there's something in the house that's caused me to sneeze. All right. So anyway, so what we're going to do now is we need to figure out for the loan balance. So let's take interest. And it was $1,100 in interest. So you don't need the $1,500. We just need the $1,100 because we don't want the loan balance. But we need an annual interest, okay? Because of the 5% rate is annual. So we're going to multiply 1,100 by 12, and then we're going to get an answer of, drum roll, $13,200 in annual interest. Okay, that's cool, but we need to take another step. And most math problems are two-steppers. Some are three, but most of them are two. So we got to take the 1,312, and what do you think we need to divide that by? Or factor in now? The 5% interest on the loan, okay? So we take our $1,300 and $1,200 and we divide it by 0.05. You know how to make that into the decimal equivalent, you know. And we divide 13.2, not 13.5, 13.2 by 0.05, and that gives us the principal balance of the loan, which is our answer number B. $264,000 is our loan balance. Okay. Now, this is a relatively simple question if you understand the formula. And that's why I would like to send you the Quizlet program, because it'll help you with definitions. But I also will include with you, because you're watching this crazy video, um, another little thing I've got for you, which is a math review, another math review. And I think if you watch my math review, you'll be happy, because you'll be able to get at least 6 or 7 of the 8 problems that you might see. Okay, let me add, we have a little bit more time left. I want to talk to you a little bit about making it in the real estate business. That's the extent of the math problems. That was math part 2. So watch math part 1 and then math part 2, and you'll have a dozen questions that are going to be helpful to you. Look, when I got into business and I'm in my mid-20s, I was scared to death. I had worked real hard during the summer to make some extra money and set it aside so I'd have a cushion, but that didn't work out. I mean, yeah, I made some extra money, but we had another problem come up, a car repair. It's snarfed all my money. All right. So I had to think, well, do I want to work, or work another job, while I'm trying to do real estate, or do I want to just go for it? Or do I want to put off getting into the business another 6 months or so? I'd already taken my test, passed it, but I put my license inactive, and so I decided that, I love my father-in-law. I was working for him. He was a great guy. We enjoyed working together, but I just had limits on my income. And I knew I could do better. And I wanted to be doing better financially. And the way to do that is by putting yourself in a position to where you can be more of value to people. And yeah, we had a little store and we were, it was fine, but we weren't really impacting or giving a lot of value to people like a realtor does, who works and helps them find and finance and close on the most important investment in most people's lives. And so, you want to be more value, better income, more value, better income, more value, better income. So I decided to go for it. And my wife, we had one little boy at the time, and um, she wasn't working. She's taking care of our little infant son. So I'm going for it. But thankfully, I had a brother-in-law. His name was Steve. In fact, Steve and I still, work together on real estate deals. He got into business a year after me, and he's still in business. And but Steve wanted to buy his first house. So the day I got my license, I'm at Steve's in my car, and we go out and we find a house he wants to buy. I write it up, take it back to my sales manager. He rewrites it. Well, I mean, it's the first deal. Okay, all right. He rewrote it. We took it over to the seller. Seller accepted it. Everything's great. And the first week, I got a house under contract, and I had to. I need a closing right away. Okay. So thank you, Stephen. Now, I didn't know a lot of people in town. We had just moved there, and my father-in-law did, and opened up this little business. Steve and I both worked there. And so I asked Steve, well, who else do you know? Well, I don't know anyone wants to buy a house, but there's a guy in my church group that said he wanted to sell a house. Well, let's get him on the phone. So Steve gets him on the phone right there. He says, "Hey, this is my brother-in-law, Rick, and we just found a house, and wow, we're moving into the area, and it's going to be great." And I told him, you might want to sell yours. And here, I'm going to hand him the phone. Hi, this is Rick. Do you want to sell your house? Yeah, we really do. Well, can I come over and talk to you about it? When? Tonight. Okay. I'm on a roll. I got to keep going. Okay. So he said, yeah, sure. Come on over about 8 o'clock. We'll get the kids down, and then we'll talk about it. Went over and got my first listing. So first sale, first listing, my brother-in-law, Steve. Now, if you want to do business right away, I mean, don't lie to people and say, well, I'm a 25-year veteran, when you're not. I was a 1 week veteran. I mean, my first week. Okay. Steve knew that, but he loved me. And he figured, how bad can you screw it up? The guy's licensed by the state of Colorado. Started in Colorado. So anyway, that got the attention of my sales manager. My gosh, here's a new kid, and he just got a sale and got a listing his first week. So he wanted to get to know me a little better. So he says, hey, let's go for a ride. and I'll show you some neighborhoods. And you just want to talk to me and get to know me a little better. And so we get in this car because it had air conditioning. I had a Volkswagen Bug with no air conditioning, not the best car for real estate. Anyway, we got in his car and we went out, and we're looking at houses. We're driving through a neighborhood and he's getting to know me and we're talking and all this kind of stuff. And we drove by this duplex, and it had tall weeds growing in front of it. And I said, wow, his name was Oli. I said, Oli, my goodness, when I first moved here to this community, I was looking for a place to rent. And I looked at that duplex. And it was vacant then, and it's still vacant now. I mean, that's weird, isn't it? He says, yeah. Hey, I tell you what, kid, either you follow up on it or I will. The old takeaway clothes. I said, well, he had all the business he needed anyway. So I figured, all right, I'll follow up. Okay. So I went back to the office, and in those days we had really cool research materials called a phone book. But we also had a reverse directory. But I didn't know how to use it. So I drove over to the county assessor's office, which was near the real estate office I was working in, and went in and said, how can I find out who owns a house at this address? And I says, oh, we'll just look it up on the record here. And they gave me there was a little kind of a card thing. It was, I don't know, about the same size of these, and it was cardstock, and it was cut, and you could write notes on it, and it had something on the back that the county had, they're just, recycling paper, which was a good thing. So I wrote the name of the owner. His name was John Dosbovic. And then I looked it up in the phone book, and I wrote that number down as well. And I called, no answer. And I didn't know you shouldn't taint your leads, back then. I didn't. Look, training sucked back in the 70s. Okay. It's much better now. But I wrote down the time and date I called, put no answer. And I called again later that day, no answer. I called that night, no answer. And I'm making these notes. You don't need to keep track of how many times people don't answer the phone. But anyway, I didn't know better. So I'm writing all that down. And finally, after about 2 days of calling, John answered the phone. And I said, hi, I'm Rookie Rick, the real estate guy. And I see you got this great duplex out there. And, can I help you do something with it? Rent it, sell it, whatever. Kid, I don't want to do anything with it right now. But thanks for calling anyway. And he got off the phone. So I made copious notes. He's gone. So all right. So I wrote that down. But I wasn't going to give up. It didn't make sense to me. I mean, I didn't even own a house. Okay. And here's a guy that has a really nice duplex. He's not doing anything with it. That did not make sense to me. Didn't make sense to him either. But so I kept calling. And not that same day. The next day, I called again. And we talked 2 or 3 times, and finally, about the third time we talked, he said, kid, you really want to do something with this, don't you? And I said, yeah, I really do. All right, well, come out and list it. And I said, and okay, you live at this address, because I'd written that down from the county assessor's office. He said, oh, no. I don't live there anymore. I live at this new address. So he lived right across the street from the duplex. He had bought the 2 lots, and he built his house he's living in the duplex. And he'd had it listed with a broker before, and the broker didn't get it sold. He got a guy under contract, fell through. Backed up in it, and John had to go in and put a catch valve and sanitize and replace carpet. And it was a real millstone around his neck. And every night he'd go to bed, and his sweetheart would say, honey, we really need to do something about the duplex. He said, okay, I'll do something about the but like a lot of rational adults, he was ignoring it. Sometimes you have problems and you just ignore it. So when this Rookie Rick kept calling, he said, all right, kid, I'll give you a shot, and he did. And that was a Wednesday. So I put an ad into this is the extent of our marketing back in the 70s. I put an ad in the classified sections for the weekend, about the whole weekend, Saturday and Sunday, special price. It's all I could afford anyway. So I put that ad in, and I get a call Saturday night. No, it's Friday night. Friday, Saturday, Sunday was the deal. And I got a call Friday night. And it was a guy named Roger Malin. And he said, I'm interested in this ad in the duplex. I said, when can we go look at it? And I said, well, we could look at it tomorrow on Saturday. And he says, it's vacant. And he said, oh, yeah, okay, great. Why don't you meet me at the office? And I gave him my address, and he showed up the next Saturday at the appointed time, about 9:30 in the morning. He had air conditioning, so we took his car. And this is the middle of summer. It was hot. So anyway, we took his car out there and we walked through, and he loved it. But he'd read the current Get Rich Quick in Real Estate book, which was written by a guy named Nick Nickerson back in those days. And it was how I took $1,000 and turned it into $3 million in my spare time in real estate. Anyway, he'd read the book and wanted to do something, and so he was hot to do something. And so we went back to the office, little round maple table, sat down, and I wrote up his offer. His second offer. Hey, it's cool. I wrote it up and took it, called John, and I mean, Roger left, and I called John to tell him about that I had an offer, and he didn't answer. The guy was gone a lot, all weekend I'm calling and he's not answering. And Monday morning I call and he's home. And I said, John, I've got two offers on your duplex. One that I wrote and another one I hadn't told you about, that another agent wrote. He called me on Sunday and he says, hey, is this John Desbobik's duplex? I said, yeah. I says, that's a smaller town. He says, yeah, well, is it on a lockbox? I says, yeah. And he says, well, I'm going to go show it. Sunday night, when I hadn't been able to get a hold of John, he called and said, well, I have an offer. Back in those days, we had to actually meet up. We didn't have, all this electronic stuff. And I said, so I've written an offer too. How do I do this? And he said, well, kid, just show them both to John. He'll pick the one he wants. Okay, fine, great. So I said, John, I have two offers on your duplex. Now, John started to feel this millstone lifting from his neck. Okay. So he got all excited. And I went out to his house, sat down with him, and he looked over the offers. And the other one from the other guy was about $500 better than mine because I'd done net sheets on him. Ole helped me. So I did, a sales manager helped me. And so showed him to John. He says, no, I want to pick the one that's best for you. And I says, well, John, I mean, this one's 500. Well, which one's best for you? Well, that's this one, John. He only had to ask twice because I'm on both sides of the commission. And, he said, yeah, okay, that's the one we're going to pick. And he got just really excited. And he grabbed my arm and he pulled me out of his house. And we're running down the street. It's a big guy. He's pulling me down the street like this. He says, I want to introduce you to someone, one of my neighbors. He's banging on the door, and the door opens, and in the door is Donnie Jaswinski. Now, Jaswinski and Desbobik were good hunting and fishing buddies. And John had actually been teaching Donnie how to be a contractor and how to build houses. And John looks at Donnie and he says, this is Rick Rowley, the greatest real estate agent that ever walked the face of the earth, or something like that. Because, I just solved his problem in his mind. He says, Donnie, you need to use Rick on every deal you ever do. And so Donnie looked at me, looked at John, says, yeah, okay. See, Donnie was the builder, and Donnie had just fired his real estate agent, and over the next few days listed about 5 homes with me. And because of Donnie and because of another builder he introduced me to, and a third builder I added later, and some other deals that I had done, I sold 58 houses my first year. And I was rookie of the year. And second year did 98 houses. Now, that story goes on and on. There's more to it, and I'll share more to it some other day with you. But that did make me rookie of the year. And it got us into our own home. And people say, well, it was luck. But no, it wasn't luck. It was John Desbobik. And why did John list that house with me, that duplex? Because I didn't give up. You see, what I also didn't tell you was just before I made that call where he finally said, come on out and list it, I took that card. You remember that card I got from the assessor's office that had all the information on it? I've been writing all the notes on. I almost threw it away. I almost threw it in the garbage because I thought this guy isn't ever going to do anything. And I just had this impression, no, Rick, make one more call. Make one more call. And I did. And that's the one where he said, look, kid, come on out, list it. And that one more call is where all that business came from. one more call. Now, you talk to any experienced agent in this industry, and there's a similar story to the one I just shared with you, but it was their story. I want this to be your story. Okay. So when you get in the industry and you get a little, gosh, this guy's never going to do anything, you're getting discouraged, remember the story and make one more call. And that might be the very call that leads to this vein of gold that you'll mine for years. I mean, it goes on and on and on, but we'll share the rest of it some other time. Thanks for being with us this evening. You see, we care not only about you passing the exam. Dan and I and the other instructors at our school, we care about you making it in the real estate business. And between all of us out there, I won't even tell you how many hundreds of years of experience we have, but we're here to help you. And not only, if you need advice on choosing a broker, or if you need advice on, once you get going, I still get 3 to 4 calls a week from former students. There's tens of thousands of them now. And I'm happy to help. And so is Dan. And so thanks for being with us tonight. You can do this. Not only can you get through the test, but you can do this. You can actually do the business as well. So thanks for being with us. And hey, we'll see you out there.